Hi guys, this is the video for the just a bit of a supplementary video for the Jessie assignment. Um, in this video, I'm just going to take everything from the body and the hair and the beanie up to this point. We've got very much the beginning, the body well outlined, the legs and the boots, as well as the beginning of the hair and a pretty good beanie in there. So far we should have the head, the eyes, the eyelids and the eyebrows in there, as well as the teeth and the mouth bag inside. That should all be good. So I can go ahead and start deleting these, as I'm going to be recreating them, and then delete everything else. So as we've gone over in class, most things, if not all things, inside Maya when it comes to characters can be created through cubes. So first things first, I want to start doing my legs and my arms, because I really like doing those parts of the body, so I'm going to start with doing those. I'm going to start off with the legs. So if I get a cube, I just shift and drag a cube out in about where the knee section is, and then if I go to vertex mode, I can then move these top vertex up to just underneath the crotch line, or just in parallel with the crotch line for now, and move the bottom four down to about where the ankle would end and the foot would begin. And then if I just go to scale mode, I can scale those in the center to give myself a rough approximation of where they are and how big they are. I can then go to the side view and just bring those back and realign them. So from there, I'm going to do one subdivision on this rectangle we've got. But of course, if I do a subdivision at the minute, we get this shape, this sort of weird rice shape. That's because Maya is seeing the top and the bottom face, so it's subdividing them, and as with subdivision, it will add a smoothness level to it. So if we get rid of those, it's got nothing on top to smooth, but it will smooth the radius of our rectangle we've made. So I'm going to select so I've taken my top and my bottom off. I'm going to do our subdivision now, which, remember, subdivision is this button here. And you can see there that we've got 8 subdivisions around the top, and we've got one edge loop that's been added in the center. And what we can actually do is use this edge loop that's been added in the center as our knee point. So we can move that up, and then just like before, just move it into place, scale it out so that it fits. And I'm not going to rotate it to fit like the curve, like the angle of the knee here. I'm just going to keep it straight. Keep it nice and straight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the orientation of these top 8 vertex, because when I first made it, I made it parallel with the crotch line here. So now that I've actually done my subdivision, I've got my knee and I've got my 8 divisions going around, I'm going to move this vertex group up here, and I'm actually going to follow the sweeping angle where the leg meets the torso. So I'm going to move it up and rotate it around a little bit, not too much, and then I'm going to, because we've rotated it around, we're losing, if we keep rotating it, it becomes almost flat. So I'm going to just use the scaling tool again and just scale it out so it fits our model a bit better. Check that it's just alright from the side. Looks pretty good from the side. So now that's our beginning of the leg, and we've only got one more step to go until we've really made the leg look like a leg, like a believable bit of geometry. And all I'm going to do is add 2 edge loops at the top and 3 edge loops at the bottom. So I go to my mesh tools, insert edge loop, make sure my multiple edge loops is set to 2, and I'm going to add 2 up here, and I'm going to change this number back down to 3, or back up to 3, and then I'm going to hit and add these 3 divisions going down here. And quite simply, what I can do is select these 2 rings and scale them out a little bit. And from the side, I've just got to make sure that they're actually conforming with this shape as well. So I'll go into X-ray and just start scaling out and fitting them to the design. Go. Maybe just bring this top bit out a little bit like that. And from the front, down in our calf, because we've made our thigh pretty nice now, so I'll just scale that out a little bit. Yeah. So now it's in fact time to make our calf, so obviously this line is our knee, so we can avoid this line. And then start going down and doing the exact same thing, moving stuff into place, scaling out, and just getting a really rough shape. Well, I say rough, because we're dealing with low poly objects, we don't have, I should say, the poly count to give ourselves a really fine, anatomically correct calf. If anything, I might just move it up a little bit, bring that shape closer together. And just follow the red line drawn underneath. And make sure everything looks pretty good. So, now if I go to perspective now, I think that's a pretty good leg. The only thing I would have to do now is add a couple of divisions going around the knee, so that the knee's actually got some animation points, so that when it does bend, it doesn't bend, it doesn't crush the geometry in a very negative way. So I'm going to add, using my cut tool here, if I hold control, you can see that it shows us what line can be drawn as we're moving our cursor around. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to add one there, and I'm going to add one there. So that's the animation point of our knee. So when our knee bends, we get a nice bit of animation deformation here, and we're not pulling or stretching any information around it. And using this front vertex, I can just do a little very low poly sculpting and just maybe bounce out that knee a little bit more, just kind of almost sculpt the knee in a little bit. Okay, not too much. Just enough to give ourselves a bit of clarity. So if I turn off the wireframe now, you can see that's a very nice leg. And then I can do our nice trick with duplicate special to flip that over. So I'm going to actually freeze the transformation, and because I'm pretty much done with the leg as it is at the minute, I'm going to delete the history, and then I'm going to DNX, X is snap to grid, bring that down to the center, then go to edit, duplicate special, check my options. In this case, I'm just going to use a copy and make sure my scale is set to -1. Hit apply, and that sends over my leg. And there you go. So I can combine these two now. That's our legs. Now, sticking with the legs, we're not going to move on to the body just yet, or the arms. Let's complete our torso section. It's really, really easy because with our character, it's a very soft character. There's no real anatomy. That if people saw it, they go, oh well, obviously that's not realistic. This is a cartoon character, so we don't have to put in as much anatomy as we normally would if we were working on something like Destiny or like a hyper-realistic game. So we're just going to make a very soft form for the pelvis and the beginning of the stomach, because we're also going to bring the pelvis area, like the top of the legs, up into the torso. So like we discussed in class, inside the game, if she was to lift her arms up or stretch upwards and the hoodie would move up, we're not going to see the polygons underneath going through, and then we'll see through them polygons. Obviously, we're actually going to close off these shapes from the hoodie and the pants, so that everything is nice and closed and we're not seeing the back faces of any polygons. So with my leg selected, I'm going to take these 4 faces on the very center. I'm going to take this one, this one, this one, and this one, and I'm going to bridge across them and give myself 1 division in the center. I'm just going to reapply. We've got this. Whenever we get this green up, it's because that Maya doesn't necessarily know how to reapply the material. We've changed the genetic makeup of our geometry, so it struggles to understand what material to apply. So I'm just going to hold right click, go down to assign existing, and it should be Lambert 1, because We shouldn't really so far have added any materials. And with that, we're now back to our lovely grey. Now, so far our pelvis is looking pretty good. I can go into my edge mode, and then I can just double click the entire ring just to select that entire top bit going round, and then I can literally extrude and bring it all the way up. So if I'm bringing it up to about there, let's bring it up and level it off and bring it in to conform with this section a bit more. Now obviously, now that I've done that, you can see that this isn't necessarily working very well. We've got these indentations at the front and at the back, and we don't really want those. So without adding any divisions going around just yet, because this makes the next step a lot easier, if we grab these sections and just move them forward, we can grab these sections back here and move them back. We're now kind of given the outline of our stomach. We can actually go in and follow the stomach actually to just help us get our forms correct. Back. And what I might do is just bring these out a little bit here, and then I want to bring these bits forward as well, because these are pushing too far in, these vertex here. And just going through and making sure everything's nice and soft. I say that's pretty good. A little bit of tweaking there. So the next step, we've got our legs more or less made. We've got like a couple more steps and then we're done. So we want to add some definition here, so that when she does animate, there is topology here that will deform, and we won't get any crushing vertices. So go into my mesh tool. I'm going to go to our insert edge loop and change this to 3, number of edge loops to 3, and add them in. And literally all I'm doing is just moving the vertex around to just soften the form. We don't need realistic anatomy. We just need the fact that we're suggesting that she's got a little bit of a podgy belly and she's got a little bit of a bump at the back. We don't need crazy anatomy that's going to take us ages to model. Only when you're doing hyper realistic monsters which have crazy anatomy do you ever really need to have super amazing anatomy inside your topology. But it is obviously very good to know how to do that sort of stuff. So I'm just going through and, like I said, just softening forms. I can use our drawing to just model into. Make sure everything's looking good. And I'm going to call it quits there for now. I mean, you can spend as long as you want on this. Shouldn't really spend too long, but you can see there that we've got a nice form. And I've just selected all this top ring of edges. I'll do it again. I selected all this top ring of faces here, edges, and I've just started extruding in, because like I said before, we want to cap this section off so there's no interior edges. So just in case we do accidentally see interior inside here, we're not going to see the back faces of something that's going to obviously destroy the illusion. So I'm just going to bring those in a little bit so it's kind of a small hole, and then I'm going to add a couple of divisions going around the edges, just lift them up so they're a bit smooth, and then I'm going to select all these edges, so let's go inside, scale them in a bit more and merge, and then with my distance threshold tool here, just move that until they all collapse into each other. And then I can go over and you know, move some of these verts around, soften them out a bit, but all in all that's what we want. And then I can go up to mesh display, smooth edges, and then we've got this. You might just want to go in and tweak a few things, in fact, it's pinching a little bit, where the lights are struggling to compute what's going on. Again, nothing major. And I guess the only thing I would want to do now, looking at the actual model, is I'm going to add another 2 edge loops here and here, just right there. So that's just like the actually, and I'll add actually one in between them. So we've got this fit. So I've added, let's do that again. I've added a edge there and there to split my top of my calf, my thigh, and then in between this line and this line I've just added another one like that. So that means that just like down here where we added these lines to make sure that when it animates, instead of crushing from here to here when we'll be pulling textures, we're only deforming and crushing from here to here, so that if any texture deformation happens, it's only going to be here. Same thing goes for up here. When she's running, when she's jumping, when she's crouching, all the texture deformation is going to happen in the crease of the pants here, instead of pulling these polygons up and down, and we're going to get some nasty topological issues. But that's our legs. Let's move that again. Like I said, you can spend a bit more time just to get rid of a few of these issues. I'm getting a bit of a lighting issue there, but I would go in there and fix that a bit more. So that's our legs done. Our legs are now completely done, all ready for unwrapping and texturing, and then rigging. So next, let's move on to the arms, and the arms are done exactly the same way. So we get a cube. You rotate that around so it's actually following the flow of the arm. And then if you go to your scale tool and it's still in world axis mode, so your Y axis isn't facing down the arm, if you go up to your tool settings, which is this little hammer here, you can have axis orientation, and you can actually just drop that window down and go to object, and you can see my scale has now moved, so my Y axis is now facing up and my X axis is facing away. And that means I can just grab the Y axis and scale like that, moving everything into position. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to, literally like I've done before, just trace the red line underneath this red drawing. I'm not tracing the black, I'm just tracing the red like that. From the side I'm just going to move it back into position, and we're looking for this circle with an X in the middle as our target. And I might just make the arm just a little bit bigger, just like that. Now, same before, if I was to do a subdivision on this, I'd get quite a nasty shape. So I'm just going to take the top and the bottom off, and then do my subdivision. And then what that gives me is a nice 8-sided cylinder with a division going down the centre. And we can now treat that as our elbow. If I turn X-ray on, we can see that it actually places it pretty near what we want. And all I'd have to do now is add 2 divisions going down the arm and 2 divisions going down the forearm. So I change my edge loops to 2, click there, and then I can just start getting a very gestural shape. At this minute, again, like I've said before, we're not looking at absolutely perfect topology or edge loop or anything like that. Well, no, we are looking for good topology and good edge loops, but we're not looking for the most cleanest and smooth topology. We're just getting just the gestural shapes in there. So we're getting the shape of the arm, the shape of the shoulder, shape of the body, shape of the legs. Because a lot of that stuff then is a lot easier to use to then add the rest of the geometry. So I'm going to say that's okay for my arm, just for now. Very basic. And then I'm going to do our duplicate special trick so I can flip it over here. So I'm going to go to modify freeze transformation, modify edit delete history, then just D and X our manipulator into the center of the world, then duplicate special flips it over. Lovely, nice. And then if we look at our character now, you can already tell legs, arms, you know, the big gestural shapes of our character come into play. So next thing, we're going to make the body, and again the body's super easy, but we're not going to follow the black line for the hoodie. We're going to follow the red line for the actual torso, the actual physical torso. And this is what a few people got confused about in class. When we make this torso, we will then connect it to the arms, and then we're creating the animation points, just like we did for the legs and the knees. We're making a point where animation can deform around, and we're not going to get any nasty tearing of UVs or anything like that, or the texture won't pull or compress or anything like that. We're making those naturally as we're modelling, and then instead of making a separate piece of geometry on top for the hoodie, we're actually going to use that piece of geometry we've just made and literally just move the vertex into place. But we just want to get the body into play first, so that we know that the amount of polygons that we've used is the right amount. We're not over modeling. We're not putting in hundreds of edge loops just to justify a curve. We're going super low poly, keeping it nice and simple and nice controllable. So again, making a cube. I'm gonna just make sure it's in the middle of the grid by holding X and just dragging. It should snap to the center. And then I'm going to just scale it up so that my top bit becomes in line with my clavicle, top of the shoulder area, and my bottom bit I'm going to move down to about here, just in line with like where the pelvis meets the torso. And then I'm going to scale out the bottom so that I'm making a triangle that is a rough approximation of the body. And then for the top, that's about the right size, but you might want it, if you've got something that's much bigger, you'd want to bring it in so that it is slightly bigger than your neck. And then from the side I can just do the exact same thing, move this back and actually scale it in Z so that it's not as wide. And then from the bottom, bring that in, scale that in Z again so that it fits this red line here to this red line back here. And then take the top and the bottom off. And then we're going to do a subdivision. Boom. So that gives us an 8-sided shape, and it also gives us our line for our solar plexus, which is the bottom of the rib cage, and that is more or less the center of the torso. It's where the ribs end and then the pelvis begins. That is where all your organs are contained inside your solar plexus. So I can use that new line in there, and I can just start to drag in and literally again trace our design like this. And just like I've done for the leg down here, I might just go up and select, select these vertex up here and just rotate them so it angles better with the neck. And then I'm going to add 2 subdivisions up top and 2 subdivisions down below. And that's it for now. But even later on, we only might have to add another 1 or 2, you know, keeping our control of our object. We're not letting the topology run away from us. I'm actually going to hide the legs because they're getting in the way a little bit. So with my leg selected, I'm going to display hide selection. Display hide selection. There we go. That work. And then, so I've added these 2 subdivisions at the bottom and at the top, and exactly the same thing. I'm going to use those and scale them out and trace the body. Because the hoodie material is a material, it wraps around the body. Any material, unless it's something like metal, will wrap around the body. Some of you might have heard of when you're drawing clothes, think about running water over a foam. Same sort of thing. The clothes are never going to just jut out and do their own thing. The clothes will always kind of wrap around the foam. And using this technique of making this really low poly body, we've already dictated the shape of our hoodie. Because all we might have to do now is just scale it out. And then we know that, okay, we only need this small amount of topology, this small amount of polygons, to dictate that there's a curve here or there's a pinch here. We don't need to go in and add hundreds of edges just to justify this curve, because it's low poly. It's something I really can't stress enough. It's low poly, and the human eye, the human brain, fixes a lot of problems for us. So, getting back to the body, see that we've got a very noticeable body going on. I'll just hide my head for the time being. Poof. Now the next thing we need to do is just add the arms to our body, and that's super simple as well. So I'm actually going to delete half of the body for this, because using our duplicate special, we can then duplicate what we're going to do over, and then that's all good. So going back to our arm, we've got an 8-sided shape here. If I select all these edges, you can see in my heads up display here, I've got edges is 8. This last row is what you've got selected. So that's 8 edges I've got selected. And here, on the where I've added these 2 divisions, I've actually made this group of 4 And what's really cool about this is each one of these quads shares 2 corners, 2 edges, which obviously makes 4. So we can then take this shape and then merge it to this arm to connect our body to our arm and also give us a really nice animation point. But if I just hit delete now, we're losing these 2 top edges. So then we've only got a 6-sided shape. And what I want to do is actually do an extrusion and just bring it in a little bit, and then I can delete. So now we've got this, we've made ourselves this top like shoulder strap almost up here, and then we have got this 8-sided shape selected here. And all I have to do is first just move back this back section a little bit. I use soft select just so it's not so destructive. Just move it back a little bit. This. And then vertex mode, turn off my soft select. Using these new interior edges I've made here, I'm going to take those to the arm. So I'm not going to take the arm, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to take the arm to the edges, because 1, we're pulling these polygons, we're stretching them, and 2, the whole point about extruding these in is to give us the opportunity to take these to the arm, which gives us, when it's complete, you'll give us a really nice edge flow to deal with. Now the way to line these up is literally just find your top one of your body and just hold in V, snap it to the top one of your arm, and then literally follow that round like that. Like that. And as you can see there that we've got a really nice edge loop going on, and all we have to do then is just add 1 loop going around, and then we've got a really nice edge loop going on. We've got points where we can animate across. When she lifts up her arm, it's never going to deform nastily. Everything looks really nice. The only thing we need to do now is just sort out it is low poly, and we want to keep it low poly, but this is just a hair too low poly. You can see here that we are getting some pulling of polygons in this corner, and if we look from underneath, you can see that it's only a 4-sided shape. If it was a full shape, it'd be a 5-sided, it'd be an 8-sided shape. So if we turn this into a 10-sided shape, it'll give us that slight increase of information we can use to remodel our character, and it's not going to go overboard. So first things first, what I'm going to do is go into vertex and literally just start moving these front line here just back a little bit, just towards the back of just towards the center of our model. It doesn't matter if they're not totally neat, because we can go in and neaten them up later on, as long as they're not too unneat as well. Let's find a happy medium. Bring these up. Bring these around. Right. So we've now decreased the distance here. So we've got a nicer area here, and we've increased the distance here at the back and at the front. So just using my cut tool, I'm going to add 1 division going down the front. Can add 1 division going down the front. Apologies, I just had Maya throw a little bit of a bug in me, so I had to restart this scene. So going back, getting my cut tool, holding control, remember, shows us where our line can go. And if we also hold shift, it snaps us to 10% increments. So I'm going to find a rough 50%, which is about there. And then same for the back, we'll find a rough 50%. Go there. And all I can do is just move it back a tiny bit. And move it forward a tiny bit. So that's now giving me a really, really nice equal distance between polygons. I'm not stretching polygons too much, if any at all. Again, all I have to do is just go back and just massage some of these vertex around, so we're not having as many angles like this underneath here, where we've got this pull, this really kind of crazy pull here. So if I actually combine these two objects, oh come on Maya, thank you. If I combine these two objects, I can then get rid of that one. Duplicate special over, and then I can go in and using my soft select and not too much softness, I can just start move stuff around. Well, first off, because I forgot to do this, I'm going to merge these two. So now the arm and the body are now connected perfectly. So use my soft select with, I don't want a crazy amount of soft select because it starts to deform my model a bit too much, especially around places where I want to maintain nice circle cylinders at the arm. So if I just bump my soft select down a little bit, I can then just start moving stuff around a little bit and smoothing off some of these angles, especially around the back. We want to just soften that out, calm it down a little bit. Any crazy angles, get rid of. A lot of these will naturally disappear as we model more into our character anyway, so it's best not to get hung up about it too much. But good housekeeping is good. We must always try and maintain nice edge flow, nice relative distances between polygons. Yeah. Okay. So now I can probably just combine these two and merge, so that I've got my full body. I think I might have a little bit of an issue at the back. Yep, so I've got a little bit of an issue back here. Bloody thing. Okay, whatever. Camera's put back in weird. I can just merge these points together to get rid of that issue back there. So everything's really nice, everything's combined. I can go up to mesh display, soften that edge, and then there you go. So yeah, looking at my model, looking around, it looks pretty good. There's a few little points like this chest bit. We've got this concave here, same bit here. It's a bit concave, so I want to move that back and move that forward. But all in all, body's done, legs are done. And we're in a good position where we can start modelling out the rest of the body. Right, so the legs are done, so we don't have to worry about those at all. Because the legs are naturally like a tights or sort of like jogging pants or something like that. We don't have to go in and model anything more for these. The legs are done. The body. Now, obviously, the body is not in the correct shape because it's following the red line, and we did that just because we wanted to make the body and make sure that we have complete control over the amount of faces we're putting in and the amount of topology, so we're not over modeling. But one of the really good things about this is that we can just go in with our edge loop, our edge selection, select a loop, scale it out to match the black line this time, and things start to look really good really fast. Let's go in at these points. So we can start making stuff look really nice really quickly, and because we have to use low poly, we get a quicker idea about what's going on. We don't have to go in and start adding loads of edge loops like I've said before. From the right view, we can start doing more tweaks as well. And using this bottom ring we've got, I'm actually going to start to make the actual curve of the hoodie here. So taking these two loops, put them down there, and literally just start to trace this hoodie. Take these ones, we can probably put these back there to make that little angle. Literally, it's just going around. And making this thing look really nice. So a very basic hoodie in there. Now what I'm going to do is, using the edge select, I'm actually going to extrude down to make the elastic section of the hoodie. So remember in class I've talked about these big gestures when modelling. This is one of the big gestures. I'm just taking it down to the very bottom of this elastic bit, just to make the general shape. Like that. So if I had the legs again, getting in the way. There you go. So I can tell there's a couple of new edge loops I have to add in to just put some extra level of detail in there. And they are literally tiny, tiny single edges. Just to really bounce out that information. Maybe add one across here, bring it in so we can start, oh, push it out a little bit, yeah. And that's it. And then I can go in and I can start to maybe add two subdivisions going around the elastic section, so that we can actually get like a nice cartoony thick material vibe going on. And then, just like we did with the top of the legs, I'm going to close this section off, because this is going to become our, like we've kind of mentioned in class, our ball and socket. So our pelvis and our torso will never have any noticeable seams inside it, or noticeable places where our topology just ends and it's just back face of polygons, which obviously 9 times out of 10 never render inside games unless it's a deliberate thing. So I can use a bevel at the bottom of there just to soften that out a little bit more. I'm thinking this bottom of the hoodie needs a little bit more TLC, so I can go in there and start just bringing that around. Yeah. And for the most part, that's it. Oh, and for the arms, completely forgot the arms. We can split the body in half to do the arms, because obviously the same is going to be on one side than it is for the other. I'm going to leave this bottom section of the forearm alone. I'm not going to put any topology down here. All the new edge loops I'm going to put is all going to be up here, just to make the very basic shapes of the sleeves. Using our old friend, the cut tool. Just making very big gestures. Very, very big gestures. Now the armpit, I'm just going to have to go in there and move these manually, because it's a little bit of a funny area modelling the armpit, especially when it's surrounded by squishy material like the hoodie. Let's go in and literally just massage some of these verts around. If we turn on X-ray, we can then guide ourselves a little bit better. Okay, and taking this very sharp edge here, I'm going to bevel that again, just to add a little extra bit of information. Nothing crazy. And then I'm going to add one more across this loop here, and then pull that forward, because that can be the inset of our sleeve there. Like that. And then from the top, because obviously we've been scaling everything uniformly, we're going to get a bit of an odd shape here. We can go in using the soft select or whatever tool you feel fit with, and start bringing this out to give the form much more believability. It's going to be flatter at the back of the hoodie because there's no major crease points back there. Our elbow always creases at the front where our forearm arm meets our bicep, so that's where everything will crease more. Bloody phone calls. Yeah, so we're just moving things around just to give, again, just the shape a lot more kind of thickness. Body. And it doesn't need much, just enough. And there we go. Just like that. So then we can go in and we can turn our mesh display to soften edge, so we lose all the harsh edges, and then we can go in, duplicate special, combine, merge, and then what I'd like to do at this point is just go in and start to kind of use the mesh display harden edge just to pick out some certain edges I want to maintain aside. Oh, we can see that we're at the front here. We've got some, that must have happened during the soft selection sort of bit I was doing. So I'm just going to have to go in and select all these sentinel vertex and bring them in. So that's why I'm saying be careful with your soft select, because if it's too big, it will be adding influence in other places, even though the influence might be quite negligible. That might still have an impact later on. So now I should be able to merge, soften edge. There we go. So if I go around, I can go also using this smooth tool just to check if there's any edges that are not sewn. That's no. So I'm going using those edges again, and mesh display, harden edge, and that just gives us that, it makes the light break over certain angles, and it just gives it, for me anyway, it really gives me a sense that there's more topology there than there really is. So let's get into a bit of a long video now. The last thing we're going to do very quickly is the boots. Just again, like we've done in class, highlight how easy it is. Oh, before we do anything else, what I would probably do at this point is go in and anywhere where our legs seem to be getting too close to our jumper, just move those out a bit, because again, this is a cartoon character, we want nice soft forms. So start moving these sections out, pushing them out, implying that that material is nice and thick. There you go. Cool. So Maya's giving me that bug again. so I'm just going to save and reopen the scene. So, yep, mine was giving me an issue then, so I just reloaded the file again. It's getting a bit annoying. So, yeah, so that's the torso and the legs done. We could, we could have unwrapped the legs already. The legs are done. We could probably have unwrapped the hoodie or the whole top section already. We are going to build the hands on later on. So it's really up to us. There's a couple of different ways we can have the hands. I would prefer them to be attached, but in a lot of games that have got switchable assets like this, your hands might be different geometry because you're switching out gloves, you're switching out gauntlets and that sort of thing. What we're going to do first is the boots, and the boots are surprisingly simple. And again, we're using my best friend, we're using a cube. So I'm just going to put these two things in a layer so that I can't interact with them anymore. And I'm going to make a cube. Like that. And what I'm going to do is take the top bit up, the top and bottom bit all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to just get the shape in, just like we do with the leg. Just get that top shape in there. From the side, move everything back so we're actually leveling out with the trunk or the pipe of the boot. Don't know what you'd call it. There you go. And maybe scale up from the front to give the boot some girth. And then I'm going to add just a cut somewhere in the middle, like that. And then using that new face we've created at the front here, I'm going to extrude this face out, and I'm actually going to make like the main sort of foot section of the boot. So unlike before, we're not making the underlying form, we're not making the underlying structure for speed in this case. We're just going to make the actual boot itself straight from the get-go. So I'm going to extrude this out to the very end, and then just make sure it's level. And then I'm going to very quickly just make a general boot shape using the stuff that we've been given by Maya. Let's clean up some of this stuff. Even out my topology a little bit. It's giving me a bit of a crazy topology going on. So yeah, I'm just moving stuff in. This little indentation at the back, because obviously the boot comes in, and then there's a heel section, which on some footwear it is very noticeable that there's a bit of a indentation at the back where the heel is. And then I'm going to take the top of the boot off. I'm not going to take the bottom, I'm just going to take the top. So we should have something that looks like this. I'm going to drag this edge out, because then that's going to give me, yeah, I'm going to drag this edge out here, like that. So with that, super rough boot, it already looks like a boot, to be honest, It already looks like a boot. If I do a subdivision on this, it makes it even more like a boot. Gives us a lot of topology to work with. Now the only negative thing about this first initial thing we've done is we've just rounded off the bottom of the foot a little bit too much. But that is super quick to fix. Selecting everything down here, scale down, and just flatten that out. And then I can start moving that topology into the right place. So I'm going to try and make my boot very, very regular, very, very regimented. Not a whole lot of curvature going on. Almost like a steel toe cap boot. So if I go into my X-ray, I can see what I need to adjust. So I definitely need to adjust this to bring this down. And this toe section, need to bring that up. And probably where this arc is here, to bring that up. Absolutely bring this section together. In fact, I'm going to bring this whole section together so it's even, and take it down to start to create my actual sort of sole of my boot, which is again really simple to make. to make the actual sole of my boot, the rubber section at the bottom, I'm just going to select all these faces going around, do an extrusion, and then using our menu here, I'm just going to increase the thickness tiny bit, just to give us a little bit of a bounce out like that. So now I can start going in and adding 1 or 2 subdivisions going across this bottom section. Let's call it 2. So yeah, multiple edge loops set to 2, put that in, and then with those I can just really give our boot a little bit of softness. I know I said before that my boot's going to be very regimented. What I meant by that is that my boot's going to be, it's going to have definite changes from where we've got our leather section of the boot down to where we've got our rubber section. It's not going to be very soft. It's going to be, there's going to be very definite edges in there. And moving stuff up, just adjusting our topology a little bit. Excuse me, I've got a cold. So this front bit, I'm going to move this forward a tiny bit and then cut across there. And then that's it. That's the only divisions I'm going to put across the foot. And then maybe a couple up here, just initially, to put a bit more shape into this section. Make sure that the topology is not too crazy. So make sure everything's regular as possible. Douche. There you go. So one thing that I really like about boots in games or in films or animation is just a level of detail of shoes. Don't know why, it's just when people spend a little bit of time on shoes, I don't know, it makes the character sing a little bit more with the addition of other stuff. So I want to make the little indentation where you got the heel back here and you've got like the front section of the boot there. I want to make that little arc in the middle. So using my cut tool, we're using quite a lot at the minute, I'm going to hold control again and put a cut about halfway through the middle, like this. And I'm going to choose where I want my heel to be, and I'm going to choose where I want the front of my foot to be. And I want this section to be my heel, and I want this section to be the front of my boot. So with that, I can just move around some of this geometry. It's a bit nicer. And I can then go in and just delete that. So I'm opening up my boot like that. I might actually take these faces back a little bit more. Just so our heel's not as big. And then bring the same thing, just bring these guys back a little bit. There we go. So our first initial pass, that's all we want. And then I'm just going to close this whole hole off at the bottom. So using our bridging tool, on to just bridge and close these holes. Get rid of the grid, gets in my way. I'll just have my divisions going down the side as well, because obviously we've got these little guys on the side. And then I can go in and close these holes. So using the bridge, using the merge tool, just go in and merge these points. There you go. So quite a nice looking boot. We've got some nice information in there. I could select this inner group of lines here and bring that in, just to bring that shape a bit forward. And one thing I really like about shoes is that in the real world, when you buy a shoe, obviously it's very flat. You get a flat shoe because it's never been walked on, it's never been used. But the more that a shoe is used, the more it bends. So I'm going to actually tell a lie. I'm actually going to put one more subdivision. It's going down there. The more you use a shoe or a boot or any item of footwear, the more it bends and kind of takes on the shape of how you walk. And something that's really cool is when characters have a little bit of a bend in the toe of the shoe. I might have gone over in class a little bit, but it's so simple to add in, and it just adds that little level of just something to the character. So I can literally just select all these edges here, all these vertex, just rotate it around a little bit, and then just move them back into place. And then there you can see that we've put a little bit of an arch in the foot. Then it just adds something to the character. So that's the main bottom of the foot done. And then all we need to do now is just add this little, like, either a leather padding around the edges or a sock folded over, depending on how you perceive it. So with these edges selected, I'm literally just going to scale them out, scale them in. And then maybe put something in the middle to soften that form out. And then for the interior, we're going to do the exact same thing that we've done for the body and the legs. We're going to scale this in. We're going to extrude this in, I should say. Move it down. Let's add divisions. Oops, so easy. And then just close this hole. Like that. So now that's our boot 90% finished. The only thing we need to add in there now is the buckles and the straps, and they can all we have to do is select something like that, bring those out a little bit, and that's generally it. This is how fun it is to make low poly characters. You can just do something like that, and you've made straps. A little bit of cleanup, obviously, on that edge is a little bit nasty, but other than that, you know, super simple, super nice. And then we can do our lovely trick with our friend, the duplicate special, free transformation, delete history, center that pivot. There you go. So for now, that's where I'm going to end the video, because it's a long video. I think the next video I'm going to try and get done is literally going through and doing the next level of detail, the next level of stuff for us. So we took a little bit of time in this video to make stuff, but generally, you know, when you've got this down to an art or to a nice time, you can probably blast this out in about half an hour. You can make this whole up to now in about half an hour to 45 minutes, and just maintain those really simple methods, keeping your poly count nice and low, making everything from cubes gives you a really nice base form to work off, and then everything's just really quick and really easy to make. Cool. So the next video we'll just be adding the extra details, going into the hair, going into the beanie, and other stuff. Okay, cool.